Welcome to the classroom goalkeeper session. What we'll go over today is a lot of the moments of the game for goalkeeping, a lot of the roles and responsibilities. We're going to go in depth with some technical and some tactical examples. So let's jump into it. Okay, so again, this is the goalkeeping classroom session. What can we do when we can't be on the pitch getting better? How can we use our resources to get better? Well, we can learn as much as we can using as many different resources as we can, and that's what this is. This is a resource for you to use. Take what you like from it and learn from it. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the 4 moments of the game that we hear about all the time. In my opinion, there are 5. So we'll go over what that 5th moment of the game is. So the first moment of the game is offensive transition. Okay, so we win the ball, and we're in that transition phase. Offensive organization, we have the ball and we're organized. We've secured some passes and we have organization within our offensive buildup. Defensive transition, we lose the ball. Okay, so we have the ball and then the other team wins the ball, we lose it. And we're in a transition from offense to defense. Defensive organization, the other team has the ball and we are in organization behind the ball. Okay, so we have numbers behind the ball. Okay, and what is the 5th moment? Well, in my opinion, the 5th moment is set pieces. Okay, so that's anything from corner kicks, free kicks, any kind of set pieces, even throw-ins, set pieces. Okay, but before we can discuss our roles and responsibilities as goalkeepers in this moment, we have to break it down a little bit because there's actually 2 strands of the goalkeeping roles and responsibilities within those moments of the game. Okay, so what do I actually mean by that? It's a little bit of a wordy statement. Well, outfield players tend to have very specific roles and responsibilities for each of the moments. So those roles and responsibilities pertain to their position. Okay, so if you're a holding midfield or an attacking midfield, you have your roles, your responsibilities during each of those moments of the game, and they pertain to your specific position. Maybe you'd be impacted by players around you, but for the most part, you're really focusing on what your roles and responsibilities are. Whereas as goalkeepers, it's a little bit different because we have to consider what we have to do in that moment and also what we have to organize in that moment. Okay, because we are the last line of defense and the first line of offense. We can see the whole field, so we have to have effective communication in organizing in all of those 5 moments. But how do we know what we have to do? Okay, remember there's a difference between what you have to do and what you have to organize. The first thing we have to consider is what we have to do in those moments. Okay, that's where the iceberg analogy comes in. And some of you that I've worked with, you've heard this over and over again. Okay, the iceberg analogy. The tip of the iceberg is what we can see above the surface. So if we're going to talk about that in relation to goalkeeping, the tip of the iceberg is the only thing that people see. It's going to be the execution. It's going to be the save or the goal, the decision, or whatever happens on the field. What they don't see is whatever happens underneath the surface. Those are the things that we need to build up so we know we can even get to that stage for an execution. So we always start at the bottom of the iceberg. Okay, and the first thing we always need is going to be our information. First things first, we get our information from the ball. Why is this important? We need to get our information from the ball to get behind the path of the ball so we're in the proper position. And when this is happening, you need to make sure that you're still anchored to the center of the goal. Okay, so this is shooting scenarios, maybe around the 18. This is what we have to do in these scenarios. The second thing we need is a trigger. Once we have our information, we're behind the path of the ball, we need a trigger. And this can be anywhere on the field. Okay, if I'm getting information the ball's in their half, then I can step up a little bit and be on my front foot. But the trigger is anything that makes us make a decision. So for example, if the ball is outside the 18-yard box and there's no pressure on the ball and the striker's leg goes back, what is that a trigger for me to do? Okay, that leads us into the next one, which is decision making. What that's going to do, it's going to make me make a decision. Decision in that scenario is to get set because the trigger is telling me that she's going to shoot or he's going to shoot. So once I've gotten my information in the proper position, I've read the trigger and I made the decision, the next thing I need to do is execute the technique or the decision. Okay, so let's go back to our example of the ball outside the 18 with no pressure on the ball. I know I'm in the proper position because I have my information from the ball. I've read the trigger of the striker's foot going back. I've made the decision to get set, and now I'm going to execute based on the ball. And is it going to be a standing save? Is it going to be a low dive? Is it going to be whatever the save is? That's the thing that people see. But again, if we don't have those 3 levels underneath it, then we can't execute. Okay, and what happens is we get so focused on just handshake, 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 and we're not focused to get information, read triggers, decision making, and then we struggle in games. And it's hard because we don't know what we have to do, and we don't know why we have to do it. This is the whys to it. This is under the surface, the whys to all your decisions. Okay, so again, your team loses the ball possession just outside the 18-yard box. What do you do? Well, first things first, you're going to get your information on the ball to get behind the path of the ball so I'm in the proper position. Look for any triggers that allow me to anticipate the next play. Is there pressure on the ball? Can I climb? Should I set? What is the threat? It's very important. You want to ask yourself, what is the threat? If that ball is outside the 18 and there's pressure on the ball, the threat's not a shot. What's the threat going to be? It's going to be a through ball. That means that I can maybe climb a little bit and be on my front foot. So if that through ball comes through, I can drive through and attack it. And third, you're going to read the trigger and make a decision. Okay? Now, I can take a wrong decision. You're going to make wrong decisions, and that's okay. What you want to avoid is not making any decision at all. Okay? You try not to be indecisive. Make a decision and make it with confidence. You make a wrong decision, learn from it, move on. You make a right decision, learn from it, and move on. And finally, you're going to execute the save or the decision that you've made. Okay, so is it you climb, is it you set, you make the save, whatever it is. Okay, but now, the second part to our roles and responsibilities, how do we know what to organize? Which is a whole different ballgame. Okay, it's very, very difficult. It depends where you are in your goalkeeper development. Okay, in my opinion, in my philosophy or whatever you want to call it, there's 3 levels to organization. Okay, and where you are depends on a couple different factors. Not only where you are in your development, but also where you are with your confidence. Have you found your voice yet? Anything like that. Okay, it's not easy for anybody to go on the field and start yelling and start commanding and organizing all these things. So where you are in relation to your organization, it's going to, in my opinion, it's going to fall into 3 different categories, and there's a lot of different moving parts that determine where you are. The first one is a tic-tac-toe analogy. Okay, so we've all played tic-tac-toe 3 in a row. Okay, this is the very first level of organization. You're in the moment, you're really only responding to the opposition. It's the iceberg. Okay, you're not organizing too much, you're just reading the trigger, getting the information, you're just being a goalkeeper. Okay, but as we know, modern game, we're so much more than goalkeepers. We actually touch the ball with our feet sometimes more than we do with our hands. We can't just be goalkeepers anymore. Okay, the second phase of organization is going to be like a game of checkers. Okay, so you're still in the moment, but you're starting to think one step ahead of the opposition. You're starting to try and read what they're doing to counteract that. Okay, so what that means with relation to soccer is you're starting to organize your back line. You're starting to play defensively. What that means is you might be starting to check your weak shoulder to tucking in that weak side fullback. Or if a player breaks through the middle, or you're telling your center defender to step, and then your other center defender and fullback to tuck in and cover that space. That's at the checkers level. Okay, you're starting to organize and understand your back 4 roles and responsibilities. Okay, the final stage is going to be chess. Okay, so iceberg now becomes intrinsic. It becomes automatic. You don't have to think about it. It's like riding a bike. You get on and you just do it. Okay, things become automatic. Okay, you start thinking 2 and 3 steps ahead of the opposition. Okay, you also impact offensively and defensively. What that means is you start looking beyond yourself, you start looking beyond your back 3 or back 4, and you start looking at the midfield line and the striker line. Okay, so you start seeing, is there an option? Is a striker an option? Can we play forward? Should we keep it? You start to be more of an impact offensively as well as defensively. Communicate with all the lines in the units, and you really become an extension of the coach on the field. Okay, because you have to be aware of all the roles and all the responsibilities of all the units. You have that opportunity to become an extension of your coach on the field. And coaches, they really trust in goalkeepers to be able to communicate this effectively to the players on the field. Okay, nobody said it was going to be easy, right? Being a goalkeeper is very, very difficult. We have to know everyone's role in every single moment. We have to be able to effectively communicate it in a split second, as well as execute our own role. Okay, nobody said it was easy, but again, you can kind of gauge where you are in that organization tiers based on a couple different factors. You could be at the top of your game technically and tactically, but you could be in the tic-tac-toe phase for organization, right? It's all about finding your voice, getting outside of your comfort zone, and remember that it's not necessarily easy for anybody to step on the field and start commanding and organizing and yelling and this and that, but you've got to start somewhere, get out of your comfort zone and do it. Okay, so then we get into, but how can you be better at it? You have to practice, 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 whether it's, as soon as you step on that field, you need to have that presence. Okay, so practice is the best place to do it. Study the game, doing things like you're doing right now, watching things on YouTube, watching clips, analyzing the game. Okay, make mistakes, yell the wrong thing. Nobody cares. Practice, make as many mistakes as you can. Okay, if you yell the wrong thing, that's okay. You go back and you fix it, and next time you do it, and you do it maybe a little bit better. Find your voice. Okay, everybody has a different tone of voice. We don't want to be, screaming at our defenders. You want them to want to work for you. You want them to want to play for you. So, we don't want to blame. We want to help. We want to guide. Next time, maybe you try this. Okay, and it's difficult. You do have to know how to talk to people. Okay, so find your voice, find your tone, what works for you, and build on that. Okay, so now we're just going to analyze a short little clip. We're going to go over some organization, some of the iceberg, and we're going to see it, break it down a little bit more concrete in a clip. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to open this. We're going to play it through one time, and then we'll go back and we'll break it down. Okay. So we'll pull it back to here. As we can see, okay, their back line is pressing high. That's a trigger that they're not going to go short. They're not going to try and play out of the back. So what does that tell me that I have to do with my back line? It means we have to drop, we have to absorb their playing long at the back. So their goalkeeper decides to go long. Let's look at our shape here. Okay, maybe we could have been a little bit deeper. We see our back line is struggling a little bit. We get a little bit of a miscommunication between our defensive midfielder and our center back. Again, this is all stuff that you might not think that has anything to do with the goalkeeper, but it absolutely does. We have to be able to see this. We have to be able to communicate in a split second to our center back, to our holding mid. We have to be able to see these things as they progress. To avoid this situation, maybe they should have been a little bit deeper to begin with, got into defensive organization shape quicker, all things that we can work on and we can improve on. So as we see, a little mishap there. And now we're in a back three. Goalkeeper position is off the line here. We can see front foot. The threat now is not a shot. The player is back to goal, so we can steal a little bit of space and keep on organizing. Right now, as a goalkeeper, I'm looking where this player is going to make their run. I'm communicating to this defender here, making sure we're nice and tight, and making sure, again, that I'm knocking off all of those iceberg criteria. Where's my information? What is my trigger? What's my decision? And how do I execute? Okay, so we can see as this player creates some distance off this defender here, goalkeeper decision is to drop just a little bit to absorb that. Now my information as this ball gets played out here is for this defender to close this space down as quickly as they can, which she's done. A very, very good job from this fullback here. Usually maybe I'd want this center back to pull back here, but keep in mind this is also the other center back who got pulled out of position, who needs to deal with this player here. Okay, so let's have a look here. Again, this is all stuff that I'm organizing as a goalkeeper at the same time that I'm reading information, reading triggers, decision-making, and executing. So it's very important that once we get to that chess checkers level, that we can intrinsically, that we just do these things automatically. And how we get to that point is we train to be able to read these triggers and cues. Then that's when we can evolve to the chess level and really just intrinsically be in the right position. We can then organize more effectively. Okay, so in this scenario here, I want this defender to drop a little bit to mind this striker that's running in that space there, just like she does there. In this space here, I think we're a little bit sucked in. I want to pull this defender out. Good. Keep in mind, going back to the iceberg again, information behind the path of the ball, engaged, tracks, okay, ball moves, keeper moves, angle changes. We're set behind the path of the ball. This player has actually done a great recovery run from the central midfield, which is actually one of our attacking mids coming back into this position here, but a little bit pulled out. So again, this just shows you how important defensive organization is, how important the viewpoint from the goalkeeper is. This is stuff that if we can see it ahead of time, like chess, we can play the game ahead of time, one step, two step ahead. So by the time it doesn't even get to this point here, right, we're organized enough that we can to deflate this situation, regain possession, get into that offensive transition, and then proceed into our organization. Okay, but again, from an iceberg perspective, what the goalkeeper has to do behind the path of the ball, reading a trigger, sets, full control. Okay, speed to look to get forward, pushing the numbers up. Okay, so again, remember that with regards to the 4 moments of the game, 5 moments if you count set pieces, there's what goalkeepers have to do and what we have to organize. What we have to do is going to be our iceberg. Get your information, read the trigger, make your decision, execute the save. What we have to organize is our back units, is starting with our defensive unit, midfield unit, and attacking unit. All of that stuff is the goalkeeper, right? Okay, so after we analyze that video, there are some questions that you can take into consideration, things that you can write down in your soccer diary, soccer journal. Highly recommend you use if you don't already use one. But the different questions that we want to look at are things like this. Questions to consider. What do I have to do in the 5 moments of the game? So this is talking about the iceberg. What do you have to do with regards to where are you getting your information from? What is the information? What trigger are you reading? What decision are you making and why? And what technique are you executing? And how are you executing that technique? Break down the techniques. How many techniques can you think of? These are all things that you can write, things that you can think about, and things that you can visualize. What do I have to organize in the 5 moments of the game? So within those 5 moments, again, this is thinking about the tic-tac-toe, checkers, or chess. What do I have to organize? Do I have to organize my back 4 in the defensive transition? What am I looking for in the units? Anything like that. And again, keep it within your range. If you're in checkers, then that's fine. Then work within that range and grow and try to get as much new knowledge as you can. Become self-aware, right? Recognize, am I in the tic-tac-toe, checkers, or chess phase of my organization? Which tier am I at? And most importantly, what am I going to do to get to the next level? These are all things that require no equipment to do. It just requires you sitting down and thinking about it. Be critical of yourself, become a critical thinker, a critical learner, and do your best to just become better than when you were yesterday. Okay, with that in mind, there are some books that I would recommend. The first of which is Legacy by James Kerr. It's about the New Zealand All Blacks, the rugby team. Some great learnings in here, really easy read, really fun as well. Okay, the next one that I highly recommend is Mind Gym. It's just a great insight into the world of being an elite athlete, some great tidbits. I love this book, I highly, highly recommend. anything, being a goalkeeper is very difficult. So anything regarding mindfulness, this is a time special edition on mindfulness and the benefits of it. I highly recommend whatever you have to do. Um, Mindfulness, also going into that, a great time to practice gratitude. 52 Lists for Happiness is a great book. Anything you can do to practice gratitude is going to make you better, not only a better person, but a better keeper. They go hand in hand. But of course, wouldn't recommend going out and buying these books necessarily, but have a look online, see if you can get them in ebooks, see if there's an easy way to do that. And finally, if you are looking just for little ways to stay fit, just fitness specific, and having a hard time, what I would recommend is you can go on YouTube, and there's a trainer called Shaun T. If you search on YouTube, it's Sanity Max 30. You can see here, there's like the day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. It's just little kind of like, it's all plyometrics. It's all body weight. You can do it in your house. You can do it in your basement. You can do it in your bedroom. It's super easy, but you will, it helps. It's what I've used this throughout my career to get back after injury. It's a great way to stay in shape, to, core, plyos, anything like that. Again, this is the free version on YouTube. If you want to invest in it and you go to beachbody.com, you can get like a subscription, and then you get access to a whole bunch of other stuff here. But again, YouTube, I think it's a great resource. Type it in, follow it, and have fun with it. Okay, so that's it for me. If you have any questions, if there's a topic that you want to talk about, leave it in the comments, and maybe we can make another video. I'm here to help you learn and grow and make the most out of this time, because it can be a very beneficial time. Okay, so thank you very much. Stay safe, and